saying that we've got to be rid of this guy because it's just going to be one up and down going on forever. It's been going on for the better part of 42 years, and we can't do any planning or investing on that sort of basis. So I think finally they're getting the message.
Right, but again, the alarm bells will ring, you see. Again, with US intervention, oil companies saying it's time to get rid of him, it's the same scenario. I mean, that's why people are so wary of US intervention. It looks like another scramble for Middle East oil or North African oil.
Well, it's so that suggests that you have to do it wisely, and I think you lead with humanitarian assistance. That's something else in addition to the command and control disruption. We can share intelligence with the forces, but all of those things require a government in place in the liberated Libya, and there has to be a chain of command, a military chain of command that's recognized that you can share intelligence with. So all of that has to take place. This is the challenge. The same way to provide humanitarian aid, we can get into Benghazi and Derna and Tobruk and provide the humanitarian aid, but there's always a risk, and usually somebody wants to put boots on the ground to defend the delivery of the aid in the event of. So all of this will take time and a government that's firmly in place.
Thank you very much. The implementation of smart power is what we keep on hearing, I suppose. That's it. Henry Schuler, thank you very much. So the UN Security Council hasn't authorized any military action in Libya, as the US Defense Secretary has been at pains to point out. On Tuesday, as expected, the UN General Assembly agreed to suspend Libya from the UN Human Rights Council. But so far, there's been no formal discussion of a no-fly zone at the United Nations or of any other potential next move. And Chinese officials, among others, will need convincing.
We respect the sovereignty, independence, and the territorial integrity of Libya. This is the first principle. The second principle is we believe that the political crisis should be resolved through peaceful means, such as a dialogue.
AlJazeera's Kristen Salumi is at the United Nations. She says that UN member countries are reluctant to introduce any further plans for measures against the Libyan regime.
We've spoken with many delegations here at the United Nations about what the next step will be, and we're hearing from many ambassadors that while they remain concerned and engaged about the situation in Libya, right now there are really no plans for further action. In particular, no plans for a no-fly zone. No delegation has asked that this be considered by the Security Council, and that's really because there are a lot of reservations about the concept, not only from China and Russia, who are veto-wielding members on the Council, but also African delegations. And the concern is imposing on a sovereign nation, that this be perceived as a foreign occupation. And what would the political implications be for not only for Libya, but for also the African, North African, Middle East region? So right now, ambassadors are telling us that they are letting the Security Council resolutions and the General Assembly resolutions of the past days play out. The International Criminal Court is about to launch an investigation. The Human Rights Council is about to launch an investigation, and it will take some time to see if the sanctions that were passed by the Security Council have any bite with the Libyan regime.
Kristen Salumi reporting from the UN. More from Washington later, but now let's return to Doha.
There have been more heavy clashes in Côte d'Ivoire's commercial capital, Abidjan. The fighting is between forces loyal to sitting President Laurent Gbagbo and supporters of the internationally recognized winner of the November election, Alassane Ouattara. Thousands of people have been trying to flee the violence, and as Imran Khan reports, some have found refuge in one of the city's churches.
Finally, a chance to smile and to sing for some. This is St. Ambroise Church, Abidjan. But instead of spiritual healing, it's medical healing in this makeshift refugee camp. Thousands have fled the fighting between supporters of the man the West recognizes as Côte d'Ivoire's leader, Alassane Ouattara, and Laurent Gbagbo, who is clinging to power despite international condemnation. They arrive here disheveled, tired, and in desperate need of care.
We have two types of people, those who only stay for a day and those that stay longer. We try and help them move to safer places.
And with homelessness comes the threat of disease. The International Red Cross fears that the longer this goes on, the higher the chance of disease spreading.
The most urgent needs that we are talking about are linked to health. The need for medicines is also linked to hygiene, which is also linked to the need for shelter.
Most of the fighting, which some fear could spread to civil war, has been in the Ouattara stronghold of Ababo. The sound of constant gunfire and fighting is now a distant memory for the ones that have made it here. For these men and women of God, helping the few that they can is all they can do.
We tell them they can always use this area for their children. We can't abandon them. That's why we come here, so we can protect them and their children.
The refugees here escaped with only what they could carry, and they've got no idea when they can go back or what they will go back to. Imran Khan, Al Jazeera.
Well, the UN says conditions are dire, with supplies of food, water, gas and petrol running low in Côte d'Ivoire. Hamdoun Touré is a spokesman for the UN mission in Côte d'Ivoire. I spoke to him a short while ago and asked him whether this was the worst violence seen since the initial clashes after November's vote.
In addition to the political impasse, we have a security issue. We also have now a humanitarian issue, including, of course, health issues. With all corpses in the streets, we can't remove them, we can't recover them. The Red Cross cannot take care of them, cannot attend. It's a serious situation.
Remind us of the UN presence and what your mandate is, particularly with regards to when you are allowed to intervene and actually fight.
Okay, we have three main points in our mandate. Protect the civilians, provide protection for the Gulf Hotel, where the elected President Alassane Ouattara is staying with his team, and also making sure that the certification of the election is safeguarded by the United Nations. We have almost 10,000, 12,000 troops on the ground. We are expecting the reinforcement of 2,000 troops, including also attack helicopters.
Have you been witness to any major political developments and any hint that there might be a national unity government on the horizon?
The two main leaders, Alassane Ouattara and President Alassane Ouattara and Laurent Gbagbo, have different views regarding the unity government. So it's up to the Ivorians to clarify what they mean by government of national unity.
Could I ask you very quickly why Mr. Laurent Gbagbo has legitimacy now in the eyes of the United Nations, when 2 months ago he was quite clearly told by the UN that he had lost the election and he had no role to play in the political future of the country? Why is he somebody that is worth dealing with right now?
Well, I never told you he had legitimacy, but he was candidate. He stood for presidential election. He got 48-something% in the election. So he's a main actor, but I didn't tell you he was the president-elect. I told you